This is the Highly Sensitive Club, episode number 28.
Have you been told you are too sensitive, too dramatic, or too much? Do you have big feelings and deep thoughts you don't always know what to do with? I'm Stephanie Lynn, a certified life coach and highly sensitive person. I've helped dozens of highly sensitive clients feel more energized, more confident, and more in control of their high sensitivity. In these episodes, you'll get the information and inspiration to level up your life as a highly sensitive person too. Welcome to the Highly Sensitive Club.
Hello, highly sensitive person, and welcome to this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club. This is a topic that came up very organically from a conversation, and I find that looking back on previous conversations with other HSPs or highly sensitive people, I find that this thought or this belief seems to come up a lot. So I wanted to address it today. And it's the idea that being highly sensitive means that you are at a disadvantage, or that there's something wrong with you, or that it's some kind of life sentence. I think this comes back to a belief that I have pushed back against my entire life, and that's the belief that this is just the way that it is, or because I said so, because that's the way it's always been done, that's the way that people just expect it to continue to be done. I really dislike this idea and this belief, not because I think that you should make changes for change's sake, especially when it doesn't make sense and you just want that sense of busyness, because oftentimes that style of change comes from a fear. You're trying to avoid something else. But there's a big difference between that and making change because change is natural and it's organic. Change is a normal part of life. Each of us is meant to grow and change, and that's a normal part of being human. So there's this idea with high sensitivity that it's a life sentence, that you are doomed to be overwhelmed and overstimulated no matter what you do, that you are going to pick up on other people's emotions and there's no way for you to get rid of them. You're just going to have to sleep it off or distract yourself because that's the only way to get rid of it. And this idea that you're always going to be in analysis paralysis, or you're never going to be good enough, or you're always going to be an imposter. It's this idea that we're stagnating. And for many of us highly sensitive people, we are very growth minded and we are lifelong learners and we have that beginner's mindset with so many things. But when it comes to our high sensitivity, many of us believe that this is just the way that it is, that the trait is static, that there's nothing you can do about it, and that this is just who you are. It is very dangerous to say, this is just who I am. I'm highly sensitive, and so I take too many things personally, or I don't like to go into certain situations because I'm never going to feel comfortable in them. What if that's not true? And what if those beliefs are actually holding you back from the things that you really want in your life? Things like sharing your voice, things like connecting with people on a deeper level, things like creating a community of like-minded individuals who get your high sensitivity and who may also be neurodivergent or neurospicy in a lot of interesting ways too. You're not alone, which is the reason that I created this podcast, because there is a place for you to belong. You are in the club, highly sensitive person. This idea that your high sensitivity is a life sentence and that it just limits you from all of these things that you want, I don't buy that. And I don't want you to buy that either. Today, I just want to share a few stories because I think that this is something that can change very easily for you if you are open to the possibility. And sometimes the possibility is just hearing that someone else did it too. So I have a couple clients who had similar situations happen with their high sensitivity. And they started in one place and ended up in another. The first one, we'll call her Elle, is a very creative person and had a lot of supplies, art supplies. She's extremely passionate, multi-passionate, and enjoys lots of different activities. She also has high sensitivity and ADHD. And when we started working together, we were actually still doing organizing. It was when I was a professional organizer for 5 years. And this client, who's now a coaching client, was an organizing client and just felt really overwhelmed by all of the stuff that she had. And she was constantly buying more and bringing it into the house, which was creating this sense of overstimulation and overwhelm. Now, because of working together, coming up with a plan, going through her projects and decluttering, and then moving that into coaching and her mindset and her thought processes, she's actually much more intentional about everything that goes into her supply room. She's much more intentional about what she buys. She was buying very spontaneously and indulging in a lot of whims. And whimsy is marvelous, especially for artists and creatives, of which you are probably one, but you can also be way more intentional about it. And that's what this client learned, that her high sensitivity and even her ADHD can actually work in her favor. She likes things to be novel and new. She likes to have new experiences, but her high sensitivity allows her to get deep into those things and to master new skills and to be excited about new projects and to foresee a beautiful outcome and an ideal situation on the other side that actually allows her to tap into her creativity and her passion in a new way. And the more intentional she is with what she brings into her home and the projects that she prioritizes, the more comfortable and in control of her space and her life she feels. And now she's knitting hats for people that she wants to knit. She finished an oracle card deck that she's been working on for a long time. She actually did clean out her studio. You can transform something like, oh, I'm just always spontaneous, I always buy things without thinking, and get really intentional and really thoughtful and decide I'm going to be very purposeful about my intentions and about my projects because they're important to me and it feels good to complete them. Another one of my clients, we'll call her Kay, is pretty new to high sensitivity and learned that her high sensitivity was why she was taking in a lot of information and processing a lot, why it was a little bit difficult to make some decisions, even in her business, because there were so many factors and so many options that she was weighing. And she also learned too that it's okay for you to share your voice and to ask people to spend some time listening to you since you're spending so much time listening to them. I know you, highly sensitive person. I know you're listening closely. It's okay to ask other people to listen to you for a change or to say, hey, let me just finish my thought really fast and then we can move on to that thing you want to talk about. With this particular client, she learned so many things about her high sensitivity and was then able to have better conversations with her loved ones. She was able to prioritize her projects and to make small steps forward that actually felt doable. And she actually applied and received a leadership role with an organization that she's been part of for many, many years. And this particular role helps facilitate conversations and deeper connections with people in the community, which is so perfect for her high sensitivity. So even though you might be someone who feels like, oh, there's too many options, I'm so passionate about so many things, I don't know how to narrow them down, you too can learn how to do that and to translate your high sensitivity into a leadership role where you're stepping up and you're being a role model and you're leading the way for others. Wouldn't that be incredible? If that's something that really calls to you, maybe you're getting those spiritual chills right now, then this is possible for you. Your spirit and your soul is calling you in to something that's really resonating for you, and it is possible for you with high sensitivity. When I was in my early 20s, I was very good friends with a woman who was an advocate for animals and especially dogs. Sometimes it just felt like magic. It was like watching The Dog Whisperer or something. And one of the things that I noticed about her was that anytime there was a dog in distress, she was always looking for ways to help. And whether this was a dog on the side of the road, or whether it was rescuing and fostering dogs, or whether it was noticing that a dog had gotten tangled up outside a cafe, or if a dog appeared to be separated from its owner, she was always looking for ways to help out animals because in a lot of cases they can't help themselves. And this stuck with me for a long time. I was driving around about a month and a half ago and noticed a dead animal in the road. And I noticed that it looked like a cat. I have two cats, Penny and Malcolm. They are my sweet family members, and I love them so much. I love them so much. And I noticed this cat on the side of the road, and I just thought, if that were my cat, I would want someone to try and find its owner. So I ended up turning around. I got a plastic bag out of my car so that I didn't have to touch a dead animal because you never know. And I picked up the cat and got it out of the way so that it wouldn't be run over by any more cars. And I looked for a collar. I didn't find one, but I did call the local humane society and they said they have a chip reader there. I bundled up this cat, put it in the way back, and then opened all the windows because roadkill can be kind of stinky, and drove it to the humane society to see if there was a chip in this cat. Now, There ended up not being a chip. I have no idea whether the cat actually was owned by someone. It looked very healthy. It looked well fed. Its coat was in good condition. It could have been a wild cat. It's entirely possible, but it could have been someone's cat too. And I just thought, if this were me, I would want someone to stop. But the point really for me was that I was the kind of person who's willing to pull over and look to see if this cat had been owned so that I could alert the cat owners that something had happened to their beloved pet if it was in fact owned. I would not have been that person if I hadn't seen someone else doing it first. I really wanted to be the kind of person that would stop and help an animal. About a week and a half later, there was a dog with a leash and a collar who was running around in the middle of the street, completely wild. And I was able to stop, pull my car over, rescue the dog, and I ended up tying him to a tree and knocking door to door on this apartment building, trying to figure out who owned the dog. I did find the owner. They did go around and collect the dog and were able to rescue him. If you want to be someone who rescues animals or who works with the homeless or who helps women and children in need, if you want to be someone who shares your voice and creates things for people to enjoy, like art or content, you can do that too. If you want to be a public speaker, if you want to share things that are important to you in front of people, that might seem really overwhelming for you with your high sensitivity right now, but I want you to know that it is entirely possible. You absolutely can do whatever you want with high sensitivity. This is possible for you too, my dear highly sensitive person. So just to recap, I want you to know that just because you have high sensitivity, that's not a life sentence. That whatever you're dealing with as far as your high sensitivity, that doesn't just have to be the way that it is. It is absolutely possible for you to make changes. They are probably going to be slow and steady because it takes our brain some time to rewire, but that's a good thing. It is a good thing that it takes our brains a while to form new habits so that when we do form those habits and we are stepping into the next version of ourselves, it lasts. And it's really powerful and it's really strong. So whatever you're dealing with your high sensitivity, whether that's perfectionism, imposter syndrome, analysis paralysis, and trouble making decisions, you don't have to live that way. That's not just a natural facet of being a highly sensitive person. That's just a challenge that you're facing right now that you can absolutely change for yourself. Now, if you would like to learn more, I have two things for you. Number one, if you are not quite sure whether you're a highly sensitive person, but if this all sounds like it might be a good fit for you, I do have a quiz where you can find out for sure if you are a highly sensitive person. And you can go to my website, stephanielynn.com/quiz in order to take the quiz and find out if you're a highly sensitive person. Or if you suspect that someone you know might be an HSP as well, you can send them the quiz in addition. And the second thing I have for you is my absolute favorite workshop called Closing Out Old Energy. This is a workshop that I recorded from last year, and it's one of my most popular workshops so far. It teaches you how to let go of other people's emotions and how to acknowledge your empathy and to see and express the emotions that you're picking up from others without having to take them on and carry them around with you. This is a really powerful workshop, and I am so excited to be able to give it away for free. So all you have to do is go to stephanielynn.com/closing, and I will have both of those links in the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of the Highly Sensitive Club, and I will see you next week.
Thanks for listening. If you're ready to take what you learned today to the next level, head over to stephanielynn, that's LINN.com, and book a consultation call to get started. I can't wait to see you there, my dear HSP.